good evening and welcome to another Monday Night Live here at the home of Precision Golf in Surrey, the UK. We come to you 6 p.m. every week, bringing you all of the insights on golf, coaching and club fitting. Simon and I take all of your questions every week. Well, another win for Scotty Scheffler, 9 wins. He is scooping up the coin like the proverbial Securicor van.
Yeah.
Not bad.
And it's the fact that it's the way he did it. You know, he's trialing out a putting grip and he still absolutely wiped the floor with everyone when he's just, I'll give it a try, see what happens. But I think it just shows, that 62 last round, just basically just going, none of you can catch me. You're not good enough.
Shows what confidence does for someone's game. Veerman wins down in South Africa at the Nedbank. I think it's always a great golf event at Sun City. It's changed its disguise as an event. It was Gary Player's always been his event, but the Nedbank $1 Million Challenge.
Was that the first $1 Million challenge in golf?
It was. It's always been a really nice event to watch at the end of the season. Nice to see Veerman win 2 times now, a winner on the DP World Tour from America. Obviously, Christmas is coming. We've got our Christmas show.
Goose is getting fat.
Already.
It's not good.
It's not good. Have you started on the mince pies yet?
No, I can't do mince pies.
Can you not?
I'm not a mincemeat person.
Right.
If the pastry to mincemeat has to be heavily in favour of pastry. Yeah.
Got it. Good to know.
Just get on the booze early.
If you've broken that mince pie seal, then God help you all. We've got our 20th of December Christmas show, 2 hours. We've got Henny Zul with us, Charlie Hull, Todd Clements, me, and we've got a bunch of guests as well, live audience. If you would like to be a part of that, there's we're getting not capacity, but we've got a decent crew coming.
Hoping for a bit of barracking from the sidelines.
20-25 people in the studio. So if you'd like to be part of that, do send us an email, stuart@precisiongolf.co.uk or simon@precisiongolf.co.uk, and we'll get you on the entry list. You need to be here by 5:30. We don't want to be stressing about answering the door and going live. James can't be coping with that. I'm hoping that's going to help bring on the grey hair that has yet to started on either of these two guys. I'm getting it for the pair of them. So if you'd like to be a part, we'd obviously welcome you along.
Looking forward to that show. Going to be lots of challenges, going to be lots of hitting, going to be lots of questions, just hopefully really high energy, maybe a Christmas cardigan or two.
Cardigan. Not only a jumper, you're going
maybe
cardigan.
I might be going full cardigan.
Sweet Jesus. Okay, well let's get straight into let's get straight into the questions that are stacking up on the channel. If you've got a question for myself or Simon, do pop it down on the chat channel and give the feed a like and a share while you're here. Why not? We'll start with the golf nerd. Are there any differences you see when you fit people with interlocking versus Varden grip?
Not really. I think grip type for me is one of those where I've always overlocked. I don't have big hands, long fingers, so I found for me the overlock was comfortable. There are players who interlock. Overlap, sorry, Did I go overlock?
Overlock. No, it's hybrid.
Overlap. The Varden grip in that respect. But it's one of those. I know people who baseball grip and it works for them. I know people who interlock and it works for them. And Greg Norman did a hybrid of both, went into mesh where you just sort of push them between. It's whatever's comfortable. For me, when I interlock, I find the knuckles all pinched together. Maybe because I play with more rotation, I find that really hurts. So whatever's most comfortable will free your hands and arms up, will get you the best consistency, I think.
The only thing I'd recommend from a coaching perspective is go nowhere near a 10-finger grip. It's a devil's work baseball grip. But that's my own preference. Mark Blast 49. Greetings from sunny Los Angeles. Devil was on TrackMan this weekend, hitting irons and have a face opened to club path swing issue or club setup issue or both. Love the show. Well, from a coaching perspective, face to path value is probably the top of the pile when I'm working. So I would always be conscious of trying to get that in a nice window of either positive or negative, no more than 2 or 3 with any club in the bag. So if it is a bias of more than that, then it is a problem, and so there will be something in your swing. But the first ball of call I would always go with is check your setup. I've got plenty of grip and setup videos on my channel.
And from an equipment point of view, if you and the club are out of sync, then you're going to have to compensate to deliver the club in some shape or form through the ball. And that can create, so for me, if the club's a bit heavy, get behind and then I flip it over. Light, I'm more likely to either pull or hold off. But the answer is there are a lot of things it could be, and it could both be technique or equipment. So unfortunately, we can't give you anything really definite there, but I'd step outside and enjoy the sunshine.
Yes. Leo asks, I was fit at Club Champion for a 45.5 Diamana GT 6X in a GT3, but their adapter makes the swing weight E1. They want to add tungsten powder to the tip to get that swing weight. I feel this is extreme. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is extreme. I think so. There are a couple of we use an adapter which doesn't add weight, rather than using the brand's adapter and gluing something into it, which is the one I believe Club Champion use. There you are adding 5, 6, 7, 8 grams of weight to the club, and there's no way of redeeming that other than changing the weight in the back of the head. Whereas the one we use, it goes in place of the brand's adapter. It's a uni-fit adapter, so any of the shafts we've got on the wall, we can use this system, Club Connect system, to interchange. So we're not adding weight to the head. 45.5 inch, and I mean, if you've got into a GT 6X, it's a strong swing anyway. And I know Justin Thomas went longer this last weekend, that he's very good. So if you've got a lot of speed, going longer generally isn't something we'd often do because you're not looking to hit it further, we're looking to keep it straighter and more in play. But to go long, E1 is pretty excessive. I mean, 6 to 8 swing weight points heavier. 3 of those will be the length. You've got another 3 or 4 from the adapter potentially. So it's not to say that it might not work, but any time a spec seems extreme, I would have some questions. It does sound that it's either very long and unwieldy, or it's very head heavy. So yeah, that to me would flag up a little bit of a red light to go. That's a very, very strong swing weight for that spec.
Chris Burgess. I was fit. TYB, the Yorkshire Blade. I was fit at Club Champion for. Hang on a second.
That's the previous one.
That was the previous one. My wife is buying me Arcos sensors for Christmas. They weigh 7.3 grams each. How much weight do I need to add to the head to balance the clubs again, and how will the overall swing weight increase my swing or affect my swing?
So depending on which ones they are, if they're the ones that screw into the butt end of the grip, then actually you may not need to add anything, because if they screw in through the top of the grip, then as long as you hold the grip, then it sits above the hand, so that's got the least effect. Ultimately, you are putting a bit of a back weight on, so you might need to add a gram or 2 to the head, potentially, to counter that. However, it's one of the downsides to these sensors that they do change the dead weight of the club, they do change the way it swings a little bit. The best ones are I'm trying to remember which ones they are, very, very small plastic bit that goes in the top that are sort of 2 grams. The answer is it will affect it a little bit, but hopefully you haven't got to do much to change it to get it back to what swings correctly for you. I'd try a couple of grams, I'd try a swing weight point, but it is going to be a little bit of a trial and error to just find what works for you with that, because it's sitting above your hands rather than below, so it has minimal effect, but it will have some effect, and that is just the downside of some of those sensors.
If you invest in something like that, go into a TrackMan suite that you can hire, hit some shots, hit 10 shots with the sensor in, 10 shots with the sensor out, monitor the numbers. If the averages don't really change that much, you know it's no effect. Then go on, put it out of your mind and onwards. That would be, from a coaching perspective, that's where I'd go with it. Mark Blass, 49, more details on club KBS C taper 120S D4 swing weight T100 irons. So this is
our
the
Californian friend.
This
yes.
is the Californian friend, yes.
So it was Cito sorry again, but what was
So
the
the
details
greeting.
again?
So the question was he was having too much of a face to path issue. He says on the club front is KBS C taper 120 S D4 swing weight T100 irons. The reality is, from a coaching or a fitting perspective, it doesn't give us any more because we would need to see what's going on with your golf swing, because it could be that they're either too weight.
They are a particularly tip heavy shaft. Right. So if it's face open, then they do swing bottom end heavy. They swing heavier to weight than most other shafts. So that might, stress on might, get them dropping a little behind and then leaving the face open.
Yeah.
So definitely maybe on the equipment side, something a little less tip heavy could help.
So over on my channel, Steve says, hi all, thanks for the quality content, you're welcome. How similar are O-Band CT115 to Modus 120, both in stiff?
Very different to swing. CT115, which is what I use, very, very evenly weighted through the shaft. I wouldn't call them counterbalance, but they reduce swing weight a little bit. Modus 120 weights in the bottom end, so it increases swing weight. So you've got two very different animals there.
Glenn 400, hi Stuart, what is the best way to contact you regarding lessons? You can find a link to my online diary in the video that I've done. You can also go on the Precision Golf website, find me there, and you can also find me on Skillist. So that would be the three, or email me. Yeah, or email me at scartrightgolf@gmail.com. That's another way. David Thomas, thoughts on Bryson's fully rotating lead arm clockwise, followed by counter-rotating wrist anti-clockwise. I wouldn't really get too caught up in anything that Bryson does. He does it his own way. He's a little bit, from what I know, he's someone that talks a scientific game, but when quizzed, maybe less educated in the whole scientific way forwards with his golf game, from what I know from insiders. So I think Bryson just does it his way. So I wouldn't get too caught up in what he's doing. And again, probably with the same with the equipment, with the speed that he possesses.
Yeah, his physicality
so out
is very unique and very different to 99% of golfers out there. So yeah, I think what he's been very good at is challenging the norm and the status quo and going, right, actually, do we need to think about this a bit differently, or like the grip size thing, does it help? And actually, there are a number of players that there is a benefit for.
Yeah.
So it has made us look at things differently. But as you say, he does it his way and it works for him. But it isn't necessarily the way. It's a way.
Yeah. I mean, you only have to look at the way he holds the golf club. I mean, there isn't anyone that's played the game with a left hand, back of left hand turned down to the floor. There hasn't been anyone that's played the game like that. So to that point, where it's such an outlier, you can't take in account anything that he does, because you'd have to talk about that and discuss the pros and cons of that and what that ripple effect does to a golfer's game before you even get into the forearm rotation of his game. So I would personally, I would steer well clear. I might do a video analysis of Bryson's swing at some point. Out of fascination, yeah. But I don't think the synergy, unless you're standing to it like him, handle high and a left wrist turned down, which if you are doing, great, but you would need a decent amount of strength and a decent amount of speed to apply with that.
Because the only interesting, I think, comparison that can be with Bryson in certain shapes and forms is Mo Norman, in terms of the gripping through the palm, very much uniform plane. I mean, Mo is a very particular person. But yeah, I think it'd be fascinating to kind of.
I mean, if you had, and who am I to question the greats? Everyone, from what I know, when Mo would hit balls on a range, everyone would gather around and watch him hit. But you listen to Mo talk, and it's like something out of, I don't know, Christmas Cracker. You know, the kind of tips and advice that he's giving, which it can be so misleading, because as we all know, what you're feeling in a swing and what's actually going on are two different things. And I think that's unfortunately we lean on, we lean on good players, their every word to tell us insights and the way they swing the club, and most of the time they can't articulate it, and when they do, you go, what? If I tried that, I would do X, Y, Z. So it's so difficult, I think, so I would just tread carefully when you listen to players articulate what they're doing. I think that's a dangerous world to get caught up in. But interesting question. Gosh, we've got lots of questions here, which is great. Doug, evening gents. Watching from my hospital bed following a hip replacement surgery this afternoon. That's dedication. Have a good show.
And it's a good time of year to get it done.
Yeah,
not missing any golf, that's for sure.
Yeah, I
hope you have a quick recovery as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Doug. Thanks for joining us. The left rough. Any chance of a I-230V Pro 243 comparison? Also, does DG 120S300 differ from Nippon Modus 115 stiff?
So on the second one, yes. Again, the Dynamic Gold 120s are a few grams heavier, balanced more on the tip end, more of a kind of stiffer tip design. The Modus 115 is a couple of grams lighter, stiffer through the midsection, softer tip, and a more of an even balance profile. And so those two shafts are a little different in terms of the way they swing. I'll get the other two heads and we'll have a...
And while you do that, I will answer a question come up on the channel. Top Golf, please explain the feel after the takeaway of taking the club to the top, how the trail arm folds and the arm folds and wrists. Thanks. So that would be, I'm guessing, where you're referencing is from halfway back to the top. So right arm is a bit of a problem child because it's out of the two arms. That's the one that's having to fold. It's also the hand at the bottom of the club that all of a sudden is having its radius compromised. When you think about golf swings, the left arm is the one that in the main, and I don't encourage a lockout with the left arm. In the main, the left arm stays fairly consistent with its radius, but of course the right arm is the one that folds away as the golf club sets. So how this right arm works, first of all, top of the pile, harmonizes with how you place the right hand on the golf club. If you are a gripper that has more palm down to the floor, and this is something that people should start to think more about, particularly with the right hand. Are you a palm down or a palm up golfer with where you grip the club? So if you're more palm down, so you have a slightly weaker right hand, you'll tend to see at the top, you'll tend to see more external rotation of the right arm with the weaker right hand. And you'll tend to, again, depending on how much you're trying to get the face back to straight, you'll either tend to see a narrowing or a widening of the right arm. So to blanket how much flexion I should see with my right arm would be faulty. It's going to be different from everyone. But invariably, if you are a golfer that is trying to square the face, invariably you'll see golfers too narrow at the top and they'll tend to push out. For golfers that are trying to hold the face off, you'll tend to see them more wide to narrow in a backswing to downswing. So that would be the radius of the arm, harmonizing with the shot that the golfer is seeing, and where you place your right hand on the club. If it's more on top, you'll tend to get more external rotation. If you tend to place your right hand underneath the club with the palm up, you'll tend to be more of a cross the liner, and you'll tend to internally rotate that right forearm at the top. So those are the denominations, shall we say, of how the arm flexes and how the forearm rotates and sets at the top. Over to you with the golf club.
I've had to steal this off Mark briefly for his fitting. So, so if you heard any whispering in the background, it was me saying to Mark, "Do you need it?" His answer was yes, but I've nicked it for a short period. So I'm going to start with the 243. So construction-wise, both have a little bit of face tech. The Mizuno starts at 7 iron in terms of using the face, as does the Ping. Very, very similar in terms of kind of the principles that they're going with. However, we should see, should being the operative word, some slightly different flight numbers. So it's not my finest strike.
I'm digging the black and pink tonight, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
That's a nice combo, that. Nice combo.
So generally we've seen the two, I appreciate the blue and the stone, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. So generally we've seen
not now.
Not live for Brian. Generally seen slightly lower launch with moderate spin with the 243. So that one kind of 4.9 on spin. I'm going to give that one more because I didn't really strike it, but very, very clean visual on the head. It's a better hit. But yeah, definitely good for not letting launch pop up too much, but retain a little bit of spin. Softer feel because of the forged framing. So that one, where are we on spin with that? 4.780, so kind of strong-ish from a trajectory point of view. Switch over to the ping now. In principle, this one, there's a little bit of tungsten in the sole on this one. We should see a little bit more launch and height. Which I haven't got the height on there. I'm going to put just going to tack the launch angle onto these numbers just to just switch the tiles. Just we don't need total distance, but I think the launch angle is. Always looking in the wrong place. The launch angle's a key one to have here. So that one launched at 17 odd degrees. So if I switch over to the ping, let's say a little bit more weight down the bottom, slightly wider sole, a little bit of a bigger head size. But a noticeably higher launch. So we'd use the ping to keep launch and a bit of spin on, to flight it up a little bit more. We'd use the Mizuno head to bring the flight down a little bit more. So they've gone almost identical distances. The pings launched at 18.2 versus 17.8. Actually felt a bigger difference than that, but the spin's up a couple of hundred revs. So if you want a bit more flight, go the ping. If you want to bring the launch, keep the launch a little bit stronger, play the Mizuno.
That, in a nutshell, is what we do every Monday night. Talk about golf swings, talk about equipment. Simon hits some.
Steal things off our fitters.
Steal things off our fitters, who's Mark's just waiting in the background. And we are having a live show on Friday the 20th of December. If you'd like to be part of our live studio audience with Charlie Hull, Todd Clements, Henny Zool, myself and Simon, and 25 or more guests. We'd love to have you along. Need to be here by 5:30 though. Drop us a line.
Stanton and Waldorf this time? Or?
Yeah, who knows?
Jeeves and Wooster?
Yeah, Jeeves and Wooster. Yeah, Wooster. And you just need to be here by 5:30. Have a few nibbles and a glass of sherry, I'm sure.
Oh, sherry. That is the devil's work.
That is the devil's work. Oh dear, port, man. That's up there with.
I know that creates the devil's work. That creates a thumping head the following day. That's for sure.
Leo goes on to say, to add, I live in the US, so I'm unaware of a place like yours to get a top tier fit. Unfortunately, Leo, there is only one place in the world that does what we do. It's right here. Get yourself on a plane, come over.
Yeah, come and play some of the courses over here and tag along a fit.
Absolutely. Andrew Hommett, what's your view on the hack motion as a training aid? Have you used it, and do you think it's a help or just something to paper over the cracks in your swing? Well, I've done a few videos on it on my YouTube channel, Good Golf Coaching. It's a great bit of kit. I don't necessarily agree with the utilization of trying to bow your left wrist to stop the ball from slicing, but I think from a data point that allows you to measure what your wrist angles are doing, fantastic. I've actually got a discount code. If you go over to my channel, check out one of my videos on hack motion, and you'll get a little bit of discount on it.
Get it in. There's still time for Christmas present.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so if I try and bow my left wrist, it feels like I'm going to snap. Can't do it.
Yeah, don't get involved in that. I have interlocked for 40 years. Aussie golfer says, I've jumped ahead there, but I saw it come up. So Tony, by the way, evening gents, looking forward to next week.
That's a gent that's coming down.
Yeah,
catch up on the clubs and then staying on for the live. Brilliant
What's
stuff.
your favourite golf course in the world, and where you most want to play, and why to both?
So, favourite golf course in the world, one I've played, Cypress Point. And the one I'd like to play, we'd all like to play Augusta, wouldn't we? It's a shame they're both over there.
Yeah.
St George's Hill, which is my home club, that's right up there as well. It's just a great, fun, beautiful course, great membership, great terrace for a drink afterwards.
Kingston Heath, my favourite place to play in the world, down in Australia. Places that I would like to play. I don't have anything that's up on my. I think Pebble Beach would be somewhere I'd like to play. Do you know what? I've seen Augusta without the galleries. I think it would be a bit of a disappointment. I think when the galleries are there, and which obviously you need to be playing some good golf to get there.
Yeah, I might struggle for that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I might get a squirrel.
But when you stand on that first tee and it's like a bit of a field.
Yeah.
I think other than the condition, once you've had a few four putts,
it will be. Let's face it,
yeah. I'm not sure whether that, but Pebble, I do fancy that, and I will get to play that at some
Royal
point.
Melbourne would be one that the sandbelt down north
Spectacular.
looks unbelievably
Royal Melbourne,
good.
but Kingston Heath is better. Yeah, Kingston.
One thing I've enjoyed seeing on the Aussie courses recently is the way that I probably mentioned it last week. Is the way that where the greens are, the drop-offs, there's almost a bit of drama around the greens.
Oh my God.
And where you if you miss a green, you miss a green. Rather than it just finding a bit of thick rough. I think those sort of tests where the ball really runs away, you see such creativity from the players. It's so fun to watch.
Yeah, spectacular. Andy JM, hi guys. Shallow face versus deeper faced fairway width. Good question. What are the pros and cons of each one? How do you decide which is best for you?
So generally speaking, if you're someone who picks it clean and doesn't take a divot and kind of nips it off the top, you've got a very shallow angle attack. Then a shallower face, what it does is it's lowering the centre of gravity. So you're finding relative to, I mean, it's an iron head, but relative to the golf ball, if you've got a shallower head, the centre of mass is going to sit lower in the face. It's going to sit lower relative to the centre of the ball. Whereas if you've got a steeper club head, the centre of mass sits higher up the face, so it's higher up the ball. So if you pick the ball off, shallower head helps to collect the ball, gets the centre of mass in the club head under the ball and flights it up more, so you get a more consistent strike. If you play a deep head, generally the centre of mass sits higher up. If you catch it low on the face, it's like a fin. So if you hit down on it and spin it a lot, then a higher CG head, a deeper face, generally is designed to keep the flight down or forwards more. And if you pick it, shallower head helps to get underneath the ball and pick it up a bit more.
Nicely explained. Gary Satterfield is on. Hi guys, just in case someone can't watch the live show on December the 20th, will it be repeated just like all the other shows, live shows? Thanks.
We'll probably do about 50 of them over Christmas. Just stick it on like everyone else does. Stick it on repeat.
Yeah, it'll be on both channels. You'll be able to just click. If you go to either of the channels, if you go up to the top bar, you'll see live. Click on that, and you'll see the live show drop down there.
And incidentally, if any of you guys who are on regularly and can't watch that one, if you have any questions that you want us to ask, send them in beforehand. Let us know. Email the two of us. We've got 2 hours, and we've got hopefully Charlie and Todd for a lot of that. So any questions you want to ask, if you can't ask them live, let us know beforehand, and we'll do what we can to get them on.
Amen to that. Graham Murray, hi Stuart. What do you think of the rolling over of the left foot during impact on both Scotty and Justin this weekend? Tiger seemed to think it was a great thing. I think if you've got the flexibility in your ankle, you've got such elasticity going on down through the ankle joints for those players, they're just going to keep on doing it. It just shows the kind of stress and force that's going through their feet. If you went up to them and tried to stop that, they would feel like you've taken one of their arms off. So again, one of those things you wouldn't necessarily encourage when it's going all out like that, but you see it in a lot of amateur golfers as you do with tour players. So if it's working for them, it's certainly not something that you would encourage to stop as a bad point.
Yeah, they're doing it staying balanced, which is the key thing.
Scotty's not, but yeah, sometimes
from there up,
yeah, for sure.
So you said they've got so much rotation that actually it's hard to keep your feet. Like Ernie Els used to, his foot was split out.
A lot of people have done it over the years, haven't they? Norwegian Warhound, despite sciatic issues, I have to play league. I'm getting better, but a bit weary. Have seen the light and the error of my ways, and will return to your technique. Any advice going on Gimpy? Not sure what advice you would like me to give, and calling me Gimpy is not going to encourage me to give it.
He might be a Lord of the Rings fan.
Okay. I don't know.
Might be. Might not be, but he might be.
I'll bring out the Gimp. I'll bring out the Gimp.
Shit.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'll get the Gimp mask. Kevin Phillips. Sorry, I've jumped ahead again. I'm now at Papa B. That's it. I'm on there. Hello, young men. Is there a best driver spin number, or does it depend on the player. I'm eternally stuck at 25 to 2700 RPM, no matter what head or shaft I try, and feel like I'm missing out on distance.
So it is dependent on the player, and it's dependent on your delivery as well, strike point and delivery. So I would put money on being able to get your spin rate lower than that, with some sort of combination out there. But in order to do it, you might harm consistency. So it's going to be a mixture of technique and club setup that does it. So if you tend to be a little trappy with the face open, then you're going to launch it lower and spin it more. If you hit up on it a lot and close the face, you're going to launch it high and spin it a lot less. There are lots of elements to it, but if you struggle to get the spin lower than that, then there will be something technique-wise which could be done to improve that for sure.
Well said. Goodness me. Aussie golfer, I haven't installed for 40 years, done that. Left rough. What's meant by early, late release, smooth, quick transition? Which bracket would each of you fall into, for example? So what's meant by early, late release? Early, late release, first up, is where the golf club is starting to swing past the handle. So if there's an early releaser of the golf club, the radius is starting to expand here. If you're a late releaser of the golf club, the club is really being led by the handle, and you're trapping the golf ball. What was the second part to that question?
Which ones would each of us be, I think?
Yeah, so
I'm going to have to let Stuart answer that one.
Yeah, so Simon is quite a hard releaser of the golf club. That's why he's a high launcher of the golf ball. Releases it really hard, got lots of body speed. I'm a bit of more of a trappy, deliver very little loft. So I'm quite a late releaser of the golf club, and that's because I've been a little bit wide over the years, and I've tried to work on that, but I've hung out too much on the other side. So again, when we have the same nuts and bolts, similar club head speed, you can see that delivery really changes our equipment dynamics. You know, I'm
such different flight numbers.
I've got loads of loft on my driver. Simon's hanging out at the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, you wouldn't flight mine at all, and
No.
I think yours like a 7.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the ingredients that you're referring to. Hopefully that gave you some insights there. Kevin Phillips, can you describe the difference between the 610S Plus PX wedge 6.5 and DG S200 in wedges? Thank you.
So 3 shafts in there. The KBS, the 610 S Plus is 125 gram. Balance is designed for lower launch and spin. Now, granted, a wedge shaft isn't going to change that very much because there's not enough bend and deflection in the shaft. But balance point a little lower down, particularly for the KBS shafts, and so designed that lower launch, lower spin. The Project X wedge shaft, I think, was the other one.
Yes.
One of the other ones on there. So the wedge-specific version of their shaft sits slightly heavier. So like a 6.0 would sit more like a 125 grams than a 120, and designed to be a little bit more responsive to the tip, but again, swings pretty tip heavy, but more responsive than the standard Project X, and not wildly dissimilar to the 610. Maybe swings a little more tip heavy than that. The standard Dynamic Gold wedge shaft, 132 grams, so sits heavier than the others, but a much more evenly distributed mass, and a little less tip responsive than the others as well. So the Project X shafts graduate in weight, as do the 610. 610s go from, I guess the S Plus, was there a flex on the Project X wedge shaft? Sorry.
Let me have a little look. Project X 6.5.
So 6.5 will sit a little heavier, more like 130. But yeah, the balance is then quite different to the Dynamic Gold. Yeah, so slightly 610, 120 S Plus sits at 125. Then the Project X 6.0 is a little bit heavier than that, and the Dynamic Gold's a little heavier than that. But the Dynamic Gold will be less bottom end weighted and probably give you a little bit more feel as well.
David Thomas, thanks for your thoughts. Just for some interest though, I've dropped my handicap by 5 following Bryson's advice and continue to drop. For me, it's all about golfers playing better wherever you source your insights. So if it's working, keep at it, and well done you for lowering those, and well done Bryson for helping you out with that. Mark Rowley, hey fellas, any point looking at the spin loft numbers on TrackMan for driver to get more distance, and what's it mean?
The answer is yes, very much so. So It's really a case that there is an optimum spin loft for everyone. It changes depending on your angle of attack and your speed. So it's the, kind of broadly speaking, it's a measurement of where you're launching the ball relative to delivery, how much dynamic loft you're adding, how much spin you're adding relative to it. So the closer you can get your angle of attack to the launch angle, the lower the spin loft's going to be. So it's a way of giving a number around really kind of where your delivery position is. It's one of those where it's a function of other data on there, and it's not one that I use in a fitting. I'm looking at someone's angle of attack, club speed, launch angle, and the loft of the club head to help with that as well. But it's something that a lot of people go to. But yes, optimizing that will help you optimize your distance.
Very good. Very good. Oh, David Sayers says fancy dress on the 20th, fellas.
A certain amount of it will be, yeah. It won't be full. It won't be full on elf, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try and make myself look slightly like a pillock for you.
Scott Watson, hi. What's the KBS TGI 110 shaft profile like compared to the PX 6.5 Modus 130X? KBS recommends the TGI 110 only for 94 plus miles an hour 7-iron players. After injuring my wrist, I would now like to test graphite.
So whatever you do, do not go on shaft based on club speed. Doesn't work like that. You can be a 84, 85 mile an hour swinger of the club, and that shaft could work for you. It's more about how you are moving the club and how that mass works for you. So going to a graphite versus a steel, in principle, you're going to take out vibration. You're also going to bring the bounce point up the shaft versus a lot of steel shafts as well. So that can take some of the strain out in theory. But I think there was a Project X and a Modus mentioned in there. But either way, a Project X 6.5 or the Modus 120 X-Flex are going to swing a lot more tip heavy. They are heavier. They're both at 118 or 125 grams versus the 110 the KBS. But the KBS is upper mid balance point. They're a bit heavier in the lower half. So that might be too much of a change. But ultimately, it could be a grip size. Going to a slightly bigger grip could help with your wrist as well. But don't go purely on club speed. Test based on how you're moving and how your timing improves. And if you can take a bit of strain out, a bit of rotation out, for example, then that takes strain off your wrist and that will help. But don't do it based on club speed alone.
Very good. Jason Owen, why do 90% of club golfers slice their driver? 2 reasons. They pull on the golf club for too long, which means that the handle arrives back to strike too early for the head. And the reason for that is because A, they're trying to hit it a long way, and B, the lever is much longer. Imagine a driver 3 times longer and then you were swinging it, how early the handle would get back to the golf ball before the club head. So you need to accept that there needs to be a moment where the club head swings. And the exacerbator of the error is the fact that the ball is far forwards, that they're then catching it on the way back in with an open face. Now you've got a path left and a face right. So you're going to come up with a slice. So, and I've actually done a video that I filmed today. It's coming out tomorrow that will help you with that if you want to check it out.
A lot of the stock drivers are long. So Justin Thomas has been trialling a 46-inch driver this week, but that's very long for them. Most of the tour pros play between 44.5 and 45 inches. Most off-the-rack drivers are 45.5, 45 3/4. So actually most amateurs are trying to play a club that's harder to hit than the pros are using. So 99% of golfers will benefit from playing a less long driver shaft. There's less club to have to get back to the ball, which exactly as Stuart said, the longer it is, the harder it is to sync up. So what's going to happen for most players is, works kind of either leaves the face open and pulls the path across and off the ball goes, sort of fading or slicing, whichever direction it is, depending on what left hand or right hand you are. But yes, harder to square a face up the longer the shaft is.
Get yourself a driver, make it a foot long, 12 inches long instead of 45. And then you would then swing it and you'd feel like it's be the easiest thing to square the face up with. So you then get something that's 5 meters long, it'd feel like, oh my goodness, I've got so long to wait for the club to swing. We don't appreciate the leverage in a golf swing enough, in my opinion. Kevin Phillips, we've done. Jason, Nick K, 3 most forgiving players, distance irons, 3 least forgiving.
It's a very broad category. As in one of the videos we've done on this, I covered 3 different styles of heads and got criticised about why did you not put this in? That's not a player's distance iron. This one is. It's such a broad category. So you can go from, Titleist have the T200 down to the T150, which are totally different heads. I would say if we're going some of the more forgiving ones, I'm picking the i530 is an absolute cannon. It's pretty forgiving. T200 is pretty forgiving. I would also add into that, I think the Mizuno, the MP245 is pretty forgiving. But less forgiving, probably the 243 sort of falls into that category. T150 would be at the less forgiving end of things, but still a great performing head. Other players' distance, thing else you put into that. I mean, Cobra, the Forged Tech, but again, it's such a broad category that there's something in there for everybody, but again, it also depends on your launch and spin you're looking for. But yeah, there's so many heads in that category, it's a minefield. But yeah,
we do this every night. We do this every Monday night at 6 p.m. Do give us a like and a share. We'd love to grow this Monday Night Live to more people, help them out with their golf.
Swix on ZX5, I'll put that in the more forgiving end of things. There we go.
David says, good work, guys. Wishing you all a very Merry Christmas and see you in 2025. Thanks, David. Lovely to have you with us. Norwegian Warhound, I ran out of characters. Gimpy had to do. There are other 5-letter words that you could have used, like
Frodo.
Stuart. Anyway, I won't be playing at 100% tonight. Slow it all down. Better get back to work. Take care, guys. And Gary Satterfield says, Stu, can you ask Simon if he trusts the big sports stores for club fittings? Thank you. Big question there.
The answer is, in the main, no, I don't. It's one of those, you're always going to find there are people in those stores that are good at what they do. But what you're going to find the majority of the time is people who are on commission, who are on incentives to sell certain things, and are pushing. There's a big sales push the whole time. We know that. Some of our guys that fit here have worked in them before, and they've told us what is involved in working there. And it's more a case of making sure you get a sale at all costs. Now, doesn't mean that they're not necessarily good fitters, but they've got limited options to work with each brand, and they've got sales targets to hit which are pretty strong, and there are lots of pressuring from them. So you might get lucky, but chances are it's better than just going, oh look, they're pretty, I'll buy a set of them. At least you get the chance to test them. But would I trust them? No.
Well done. Andrew Hunt. Hang on. Yeah, Andrew Hunt. Changing from S300 to O-Band CT115 after a visit with your good selves. What can I expect to see, feel as I get used to the new clubs? Typically a fader, but swing developing to hit slight draw since my fit.
So they're going to be a lot easier to get through the ball. So what you might find is where you're used to the heavier weight of the dynamic golds at 130 odd grams is that you've had to work hard to fetch the club through. And that can often create a little bit of a catapult and come out of posture and a bit of rotation to try and save the club head. And dropping down those sort of 15 grams or so, it's a case of unlearning the compensations. So actually kind of getting used to freewheeling a little bit more. You'll be able to stay a lot more centered and just turn collected rather than having to heave out and throw the shoulder in. So you should find that actually a good swing might result in a bit of a pull or a slight pull draw because it requires so much less effort to square the face up. So it'll allow you to free it up more and swing rather than have to hit at it.
Very good, very good. Craig T. If I want a more draw bias 3-wood and 16.5 loft, would a 15-degree plus 1.5 be a good option rather than a high loft version?
It's that they're both options. So adding loft will will bring the lie up a little bit. It will also close the face a little bit. So some brands don't offer it. Ping in their current series don't. But then you get brands like Titleist, Callaway do with their current versions. So you can go into depending on how strong your fade is that you're trying to correct. A head that we've had really good results with this year has been the Callaway, the AI Smoke Max Draw, and that's been very good for that. So you wouldn't necessarily have to loft down, go low loft and loft it up. You also got the drawbar setting on their hosels as well. So there are a number of things you can do. Which one's better? Again, whichever head style is giving you the best flight, and then see what's possible from a settings point of view.
Charlie Hull has very kindly started a raffle for the wonderful charity that James is supporting, the Great Ormond Street Hospital. James will pop the link up in the description or in the chat channel. He'll get that up for you, and if you want to go and take a little look over there, there's loads of memorabilia, and all of the money's going to Great Ormond Street Hospital. And if you want to find out a little bit more about why we're supporting that charity, go over to the Precision Golf Instagram channel, and you'll be able to find a little story and insights onto that.
The best bit on that is it doesn't require a highest bidder. It's I've got some figures. I quite like to win something myself.
It's a raffle.
It's a raffle, so anyone can win.
Yeah.
Rather than just someone who puts the most cash up. That's
absolutely great. Fantastic. Chris Burgess, the Yorkshire Blade. Thanks, Simon and Stuart. Great answers. And I have an SC4 monitor, so I will test with and without the plugs in the top. Great idea. Chris S., did you guys ever do a comparison between the current T100 and the last gen T100?
It's a good question. I'm not sure we did. I think because what happens with, sometimes it's quite hard to, because as they run out of stock on a product, we then take it out of the demos, and then we will reuse some of the sleeves and things from them. So once we stop being able to get hold of a club head from a brand, i.e. stop being able to provide it, there's little reason to keep it in the fitting matrix. So we have a limited amount of options and space to be able to integrate them all in. So it's not something that we'd necessarily leave in the bay a couple of months to wait for the new product to come out to do a comparison. But it's something that we're looking at doing, trying to do a little bit more in the future. Something that's on our minds to do. We'll certainly try and do so in the future models.
Gary Satterfield says, thank you for the non-political answer on the high street fitters being trustworthy.
I hope you got the clogs.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, don't forget the clogs. What I was going to say? Yes, Craig T, Chris S, Steve Darrington, legends, Steve. One of us is, both of us are. Legends. I've used a Tensei Blue 55 stiff driver shaft for a while. It does work. I wondered what performance or feel benefits from an upcharge shaft might be. Any suggestions on similar profiles?
I mean, in principle, the higher grade you go, there's less resin. You've got more layers of graphite, so it's a smoother, more consistent bend pattern. However, if a shaft works for you, it can be a $5 shaft, it can be a $5,000 shaft, pound, depending where you're from. It's just most important that it works well. So actually, a dearer shaft, a higher grade shaft that doesn't swing as well, could feel worse. It's still, Mitsubishi don't make made for shafts. The Tensei AV55 is, they would kind of term sort of more of an entry level, and you've got the Pro 1Ks that sit above that from a material point of view, but it's not a cheap made for job like some of the brands used to do in the past. I mean, a similar profile, if we're going 55, because they're in the Pro series, they go a little bit lighter. So if you're going a similar profile in a 55, if you want a smooth feel, I would say actually on the graphite designs would work well. If you're wanting something a little lower spin, maybe a UB5, that would be a good shaft. If you're wanting something with a bit more tip response, then Acura, the GX150 would be a good option.
Boy knows his beer. Knows his beer. So
funny enough, a lot of them are blue as well.
Are they?
Not the beers, that is.
Mark Howard, hi gents. Would be interested to hear your thoughts on the Takamo irons. Looking to upgrade from Callaway Rogue irons and thinking of going from Takamo going for Takamo 101Ts or the 201s. Would P770 or P790 be better? I mean, are we still talking golf clubs here?
Yeah.
I know.
Will 770 or 790 be better? I'm assuming in terms of model-wise, I don't know. Relative to Takamo, Takamo are a great price point product, and what they've done really well is go direct to consumer, and that keeps costs down. But when you keep costs down, then there are some knock-on effects to it. And what we've seen of sets that we've had in, the tolerances on loft and lie have not been as good, and head weights as the big brands, where the tolerances are a little bit tighter, and that's part of why you pay a bit more. It's not to say the performance of the Takamo heads isn't good, but head-to-head through the sets, loft and lies, we've seen some wider tolerance, shall we say, than other brands. But off the club face, the performance has been good. It's just that the consistency of the product that we've seen through the door hasn't been of the level that Titleist or TaylorMade or a Callaway or a Srixon would provide.
Golf Nerd, can we see Simon versus Stuart challenge 80-yard shot into a 20-mile wind to a tuck front pin? There is going to be challenge galore on the Friday night. We've got 9 minutes. We've got questions to get through. Let's save that for our Friday the 20th.
Well, we can bring the girls and boys in as well.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Team blonde against team brown.
Grey.
Grey.
But we will definitely be doing it. There's that Friday 20th show. There's going to be competitions galore. I mean, where else can you get to ask a Solheim Cup player and all-round good egg Charlie Hull and a two-time winner on the DP World Tour, Todd Clements? Not two-time. He's one-time winner.
He deserved to.
He deserves to. Deserves to.
Yeah.
But where can you get that opportunity? Friday the 20th is going to be a sellout.
Insights, challenges,
absolutely. So
three comps.
That will happen, and we're going to get James to come out from behind the disc jockey and hit some shots as well. It's important.
Twice.
He's going to hit two of them. The Yorkshire Bay just changed grips from Golf Pride TV mid-size to Z full chord Align mid-size. How will this affect the swing weight? We've got 8 minutes.
Yeah, the Aligns are a little bit heavier, so you might find you drop about a swing weight point, but your hands might bleed afterwards as well.
Mike T, what is the benefit of counterbalance shafts in driver?
Purely for someone who struggles to square the face up, it helps. It's easier to get the toe end through. If the mass is in the bottom end, you've got to exert more force to get it through. So depending on your release patterns, someone who's not got much rotation through or struggles to square it up, you're going to find a counterbalance shaft easier to square through.
Mike T goes on to ask, interesting video, Simon maxing out driver with lighter shaft. Why do you not play a lighter shaft given the benefit?
Well, the benefit is only when I'm thrashing at it and get the smelling salts on it, if that's the video you're thinking about. So that is not an on-course swing. So for me, for every player, there is a too much and too little weight. If I was just going hell for leather and like a long drive, then yeah, the lighter weight allows me to build more speed. But I think I gained something like 6 or 7 yards or 7 or 8 yards over my gamer driver maxed out versus a lighter one that I just can't control on the course the same way.
Very good. S. Forbes, any chance Simon could do a quick test of the Srixon ZX5 versus Callaway Apex Pro VS AI 200? Mainly want to look at launch and peak height differences. Thanks.
The ZX5, as per earlier, we've actually moved out of the fitting bays and out of the demos because we can't get them anymore. They went out of stock about a few weeks back, a month ago maybe. So, however, the AI, if you're a drawer of the ball, the AI 200 is a very low spin head. If you fade it, it retains a bit of flight. The ZX5 was launched it a little bit more and retain a bit more spin. What was the other head?
The other head was the Callaway Apex Pro versus...
Apex Pro, slower off the face, higher launch, higher spin, nowhere near as hot as previous models have been as well.
Versus the AI 200.
Probably going to be about 7 or 8 yards difference, I would say. Yeah.
Albert Chung, I've been fitted into Dynamic Gold 120 X100 for irons and Ventus Blue TR6X for driver. What hybrid shaft do you suggest I try, in particular what height? What weight?
Something around the 85 gram mark, 85 to 90 gram mark would make sense. Yeah, I mean, there are any number of them. But yeah, so that way, I mean, there are a lot of shafts in that kind of weight category. You do have quite different balance points on your iron shafts to driver. So Depends whether you swing it more like a wood or more like an iron as to which one's better.
Gary Satsfield asks, what would be your main swing thought on the course if you found your golf swing going in the bin? Good question. I would always check my grip, and I would always lean on getting my grip a bit stronger and see where the ball flight goes and then work back from there. So I'd always go grip first before I do anything, because that can change very, very easily, which all of a sudden sends the ball off in different places, which then makes your grip pressure change and all hell can break loose. What about you?
For me, if it goes wrong, I get lateral. So it's centering, actually swinging with my core, because that connects me and stops me getting lateral.
Good answer. David Smith, hi guys, looking forward to the live show. David's going to be here with us. What is your opinion on using a budget launch monitor at the driving range, and what data should you be concentrated on? I think they all have their merits. What you first want to do though is hire whatever one you buy, go to a TrackMan suite and calibrate whatever that budget monitor does in relation to TrackMan, and then you've got a bit of a reference point, because they'll all measure it differently and different tolerances, but you do get what you pay for, unfortunately, when it comes to the launch monitor. In terms of what to look out for, again, depends on what you're trying to work on with your golf swing, but you invariably won't get the attack angle, club path and face to path on the lower end stuff. You'll get spin rates and ball launching. You do that down the range with a hooky golf ball, and honestly, you're better off saving your money and spending it on renting a TrackMan suite every 6 weeks during the winter. Mark Blass, recommendations on shafts similar to the KBS C-Taper 120S. That's a little bit lighter. We'll make Mega RR18 the last question we answer.
Okay, so a little bit lighter, but keeping the balance point similar. I say the Modus, the 120 is a good one. That's in a 114, the stiff in a 114, 115 gram. I would say also, or actually the Acra, the I Steel Red 110, if you want to go that light, that would also be an option, but that's quite a lot lighter. But one of those two would certainly be good for stability, but also keeping the balance on the tip end.
Ian Linfoot, do the exotic brands such as Epon and GMAR and any others you know have players' distance performance?
Yes. So GMAR, for example, have the ADW1. They've got the FFW10 as well, which have a vacuum behind the face, which create ball speed in a completely forged head. I mean, fascinating from an engineering point of view. The head weight on the ADW1 is fairly heavy though, so that's the only downside. Epon have the AF 706, which is the latest one with a bit of face tech, but they tend to only get up to about a 5 iron in those. So they will do them. Someone like Mura doesn't really do the distance one, but Epon and GMAR certainly do. Vega do. There are a number of those in those brands.
That, in a nutshell, is why he's the best in the business. I mean, who knows that stuff? Mental. Good for you. Precision Golf, we've just popped up the raffle link for Charlie Hull's memorabilia. All the proceeds go to Great Ormond Street Hospital, a fantastic children's hospital in London. John Shaw, just been fitted for some MP245 irons. The GW is 48 degrees. I need another 2 wedges. What lofts would you think would be best?
So another 2 wedges. So if you're 48 on the gap wedge, it depends how lofty you want to go. You can go sort of 52/53, and then 58. So you're obviously 48, 52, 50, 58, 48, 54, 60, or you can go 48, 52, 56 if you like as well. There are lots of different options depending on what you want your highest loft wedge to be. So determine that first and then find a nice even gap back. We're also next Monday going to be joined by a past fitter of ours, Joe Ferguson from Golf Monthly. He's going to be in the studio for the live next Monday, following something we're doing with him in the afternoon.
Fantastic stuff. Mega RR18, hello both, great content.
Sounds like something from Robot Wars, doesn't it?
Mega RR8,
I bet you used to watch that, didn't you?
I love Robot Wars. Hello both, great content. Quick question, irons MP223 with Project X IO 6.5115G. It doesn't sound like a quick question to start with, but we'll keep going. Face angle easier to manage, but wedges. T7 dynamic gold, face angle of around -7. Any obvious thoughts?
So the dynamic golds are 15 grams heavier. If they are too heavy, then the club can get behind. It could be lie as well, being too upright, but then they get behind, then you're going to have to roll the face to fetch it. So that's probably where that's coming from. The IO 6.5 in the 115, the balance point's a bit near the bottom end. Lighter handle means you can keep the handle leading and leave the face on line. So I would drop a bit of shaft weight in the wedges.
Just to let you know, Mega RR118, Mega RR18, a short question would come as one line, not 6. Anyway, just joking.
Short answer though. As well.
Thank you so much for your questions. We've done it. 7 o'clock.
Feels like half an hour.
We've got through all of the questions. You're going to have this for 2 hours on the 20th. You're going to have Charlie Hull roasting it down there. Henny
So
Zoll.
you and I are going to have to
I'm
get
gonna,
swinging and try, because otherwise we're going to be Pee Wee Herman compared to those two.
I know. We're having Henny Zoll here, Todd Clements. The both of us is going to be all sorts of shenanigans going on.
White beard for it?
I don't know. I might come in some sort of lederhosen or something. But if you
Clogs.
If you would like to be with us in the studio, drop us an email, stuart@precisiongolf.co.uk, simon@precisiongolf.co.uk. We would love to have you here. We've got some spots available. There's about 25 people down on the live list so far. If you would like to join them, as I say, drop us an email. We'll be taking all the questions. You'll be able to watch it live afterwards. We've got one more Monday Night Live before then. Joe Ferguson from Golf Monthly. Big splash on Golf Monthly now, Joe. He's
it's been great. No, he's been very kind and referenced us a few times, and he's great to see one of the guys doing such a nice job and still in the equipment world. That's always great.
Brilliant. Well, as usual, we really appreciate you being part of our show and continue to do so. If you'd like to share our channel, we would love you to do that. Hit the like and do consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Simon and I and Joe will be here next Monday at 6 p.m. You have a great golfing week. From Simon and I, big thanks. See you next week.